It is August. Can you believe it, guys? It's August. My mom buys my brother and I calendars every year as a Christmas present because we still like actual physical calendars. I remember getting this year's calendar. And it's always an Elvis. I get the Elvis calendar, so I get the Elvis desk calendar. Anybody comes to my office, you see the Elvis desk calendar, and then I have the wall calendar as well. And I hang the wall calendar in my office at home, and I just got that thing. I just got it. And then suddenly I'm tearing some pages off this morning on my desk. It's like, oh, it's August. It's a big, thick, desk calendar. You peel off each page. Each page has a different Elvis picture on it. People love it. I use it as scratch paper on the back and hand it to people as notes and whatnot. But, yeah, it's August. Just like that. Snap. 2026 is well more than half over. And we're running fast into whatever economic chaos is headed straight for us, and Joe and I both told you, look at the markets. Oh, they're so happy. 528 points up on the Dow. It was as high as 650 points up. S&P up almost 100 points. It's up 85 right now. And the NASDAQ up 445 points. Everything is awesome, right? Everything is awesome. And everything is not awesome. And don't be caught with your pants down. And gold and silver, it may go up and down a little bit. If you're looking at it every day, it may not make you happy. But over the sophisticated gold and silver owner time span, month after month, year after year, you are protected against the funny money games of the guys that make all the rules and benefit the most. And how do you do that? You call the Patriot Trading Group. That is what I'm talking about today. Joe's on vacation. He will be back by Wednesday. One of these days, I think I'll take myself a week off. I just haven't found the time and reason, I suppose. But Joe will be back Wednesday. You can call us 800-951-0592. That number is 800-951-0592. I'm going to hit the gold special right off the top. We got just a little bit, less than $100 above melt. We got $20 gold pieces at $4,000. Actually, if you go to the website, it'll say right there on the website, $3,995. I'm not a big 999 guy. That whole false selling thing. It's $4,000. $4,000, you're going to get yourself a $20 Liberty, essentially an ounce of gold, 0.9675 ounces of gold. And people that don't like old gold, that's the one thing. Oh, there's numbers and there's math to do. Well, it's essentially an ounce. Yeah, that 0.9675, that 0.0325 whatever of gold that you don't get in that, and it's more than a 1 ounce gold coin, by the way, because it's got copper in it. It was made to actually be spent. If you talk about melt price, yeah, it's about $100 melt, right? So we got the gold price at almost $4,100, $4,091. So you take that $100 off, it's $3,991 of melt on that coin that we're selling today. And for just $8 more, you've got it. $8 over melt gold today when Joe is on vacation. 800-951-0592. Now, I thought I might do this show solo, and I took a lot of days off last week. I actually still was working, but I decided to take a little bit of a radio break, and we played replays for most of the week. Today, I decided to bring on a former partner of Patriot, but Glenn Biddle is with me today. I'm going to have him come in and give me something to react to and talk about whatever fills our brains. But Glenn, thanks for coming in. You're over there in Maryland, so you're at it's 9:12 here or 9:10 here in Colorado, so it's about 11:10 there. What's going on, man? What do you got? We got to hit a commercial break here soon, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
I live in a deep blue state, the People's Republic of Maryland. It's very communist. We have a horrible governor. He gave himself a fake Bronze Star. Wes Moore. We have the second worst economy in the country. I'm sure he's very proud of that as well. But if longtime listeners would know that I'm a founding father of Fake News Friday. We used to do this on the Friday show of this show, during the day. We used to have a lot of fun with that. And we actually pranked Joe one time where we all had the answers, but he didn't, and we were whipping him for every week, which was a lot of fun.
Well, you say, hold on, Greg. You say once. We did it once. No, that was like a 3-month-long campaign against him.
Well, yeah, but we do it, exactly. But hold on.
Let me interrupt a second. What Glenn's talking about was, we might as well, if we're going to say it, let's talk about it for a moment. What we did was we did the thing where Glenn made the show, and he brought news on, and what he did is he brought real news, and then he changed something. And these were long stories, so you had to really listen. And for a news hound like Joe, this was his thing. And for me, I couldn't care if Glenn here changed the color brown to color black on some story, and I wasn't going to catch that. So, Joe used, he showed it up, man. He was celebrating every time he beat me because it was usually me versus him on that show. But, right, Glenn, I decided, you know what? Let's get our partner Brian involved. He sounds like he's more intelligent, right? And we just started shoveling the answers, right?
Yep, and we whipped Joe every week for a while. It was great.
Well, we'll finish that. We got Glenn. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit of economic news. I was listening to Jeff Rentz this morning. Who heard that? Credit cards. Credit cards are being given out like candy right now. Uh-oh. Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. We have $20 liberties for $4,000. Get them before the stock market goes to $100,000 and then has some dramatic crash that scares the whole planet, and the next COVID blows in, and 9/11's happening all in one swoop. And the customers that I've dealt with over the years at Patriot Trading Group are the most calm and relaxed people I've ever met because they have taken care of themselves. And they did that by buying $20 liberties. I'm going to tell you, that's the bread and butter coin of Patriot Trading Group. They buy those $20 liberties. They sell them to us. They buy them from us. This is what we do. You call 800-951-0592. Now, Glenn had brought up Fake News Friday, which was actually a Patriot Radio News Hour show on Friday. And Joe is loving the fact that he knows the news better than anyone. And Glenn was trying to bring on news as a new partner of the gold company. And but yeah, we put Brian in position, right, Glenn, and we just kept feeding him the answers. And finally, Joe was going to make a trip to the radio station because he was going to buy the radio station. It was a long negotiation for him to get the radio station in his possession, but he was making a trip out here to close the deal or something. And like the weeks leading up, I remember you and Brian Glade were like, I don't know, should we be doing this? You guys really getting a little freaked out, weren't you?
I was scared to death. I thought he was going to fire us all, quite frankly.
That was like, no, let's just do it. Come on, let's do it. I was just talking to Dino about this yesterday. I was like, maybe that was not such the best move, man. Maybe he would get rid of us, huh?
It was always a possibility. I mean, anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I brought that, and you mentioned that it's August, 2nd, 3rd, whatever, beginning of August. If I was still teaching, I would have that pit in my stomach feeling right now, like, oh my gosh, I have to go back to work in 2 weeks. But man, being retired is great. I don't have to worry about that at all. When they put the back to school stuff in the Walmarts in like June, just after school gets out, I just laugh. I take a picture of it and send it to all my old teacher friends. I'm like, back to school stuff in the stores already, Because I'm sure if you go into Lowe's right now, they probably have Thanksgiving stuff out, because they're just they jump these seasons so fast now.
Now, when you first became a teacher in the olden years, you didn't have a pit in your stomach. Were you more excited for the school year back then?
Yeah, but teaching was so different back then. Now it's ridiculous, just the way that you have to teach. It's just so stupid the way. And the funny thing is, I retired 4 years ago, but I got called back a year later to teach because they had a teacher quit 3 days in, and they needed a teacher immediately. I'm like, I can do it, and it was it's fine. It was supposed to be 2 weeks, which turned into.
The thing I'm keying on, Glenn, the thing I'm keying on is the pit in the stomach. I mean, I know a lot of people that have that when they have to go to work. It's just that's an awful thing. That shows you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Because when I was the only time I had that pit in my stomach feeling was when I had to go back to school or when I had to get up and go to school each day. Because otherwise, I was always trying to do, if I didn't like something, I just quit. Like if I had a job and I had the pit in my stomach, I'm like, well, I don't think I really need this job. I don't like feeling the gloom of having to go to work. So I either went to work and just started misbehaving and doing what I wanted, or I just was done, Glenn.
Well, it wasn't the kids, and I loved teaching the subjects. I taught government and history. That was all fun. It was just the administration and all the requirements that they put on you. They were just overwhelming. You can't do your job when they have all this stupid things you have to do rather than just teach. And that's the problem with education today. It's so structured and so highly regulated, you can't really be free to be a teacher and do what you want. So it's tough. I mean...
Did you hear the Napoleon stuff I put on Thursday and Friday?
I did.
What did you think of that whole? He was trying to build a fortress around the banking system and keep everyone free inside the continental system, which we are all taught how evil and horrible Napoleon was, and here he was fighting the banking system. It's pretty interesting stuff, isn't it?
He was an interesting person. He was very organized, and what most people don't know is he spent a year in Egypt, and the advances that he made in science and technology in Egypt were absolutely amazing. Now, he got his rear end handed to him a whole bunch of times, which he covered him up, all those defeats. But for the most part, the scientific studies that he did in Egypt, his studies, what he found in Egypt allowed the hieroglyphics to be deciphered eventually. The Rosetta Stone is what it's called. And I still believe that's in the British Museum at this point. They should give it back because, the British are on stolen land. When all these stupid people say, oh, we have to have a land thing right now where we're standing on stolen land, it's like, oh my gosh, all these award shows when these idiotic leftist stars have to say that. I just hate that, I would love to see a land thing where say, you know what, I'm standing in the best country in the world, the United States of America, It's a great country. Our government kind of stinks, but the people here are great. Is it
the best country in the world, or is it just the best system ruling the world, which is pretty much everybody else? I mean, is America really just America, or is it pretty much everybody's in that same system? Did America just join the English system, and we were all just tricked into it, Glenn? Isn't it just the same system that England's been running for centuries? Now England doesn't have to take all the blame for all the military conquests that are going on the last 100 years.
The banking system, of course, we are part of, the world banking system. And now we are basically the enforcer of that system, where if you don't deal in the right currency, we will make you deal in it. Look at what happened to Gaddafi in Libya, and Iraq when it tried to sell oil in euros. You get, if you're on the bad guy bus, you get dealt with. And right now we're trying to deal with Iran, and that's a problem. I'm looking at the ticker right now. That the Dow's up 557. It's because, once again, Jason, remember that email I sent you with all those things in it? Like, well, we're winning.
Peace is coming.
Yeah, well, this massive airstrike, the worst, in Trump's words, the most devastating since World War II. He called it off again this weekend, because the Saudis told him or asked him to, and, we're going to give peace a chance again. Well, how about that? It just makes the markets perfect for today because, that's how it works, and I'm sure everybody's in on it and making very lucrative trades today and making a lot of money.
Oil's dipping just a little below $80, kind of keeping that $80 kind of price range. It doesn't want to go above 90. It won't go below 70 too much. And just everyone's it's just a happy, controlled system, isn't it?
It's perfect. I mean, if you can keep these guardrails on it, and it doesn't go too far out of whack, it's very profitable to be in this war right now.
I was listening to the morning show though. You talk about how hunky dory it is, and I was listening to Jeff Rentz this morning. He had a guy on there. He was talking about credit cards, and the 30-day delinquency on credit cards is 7%. At the 60-day delinquent rate is at 10%, right? So there's definitely this ugly thing going on. And what the guy was saying, Glenn, I'm going to tell you this to you because you got more to talk about how happy everything is. But what the guest was saying was this. He said, look, the 1929 stock market crash, which led us into the 1930s depression, was a liquidity crisis. It was, credit dissolved. And he said, look, the legislation is there in Washington, D.C. They're going to try to push this thing where they force the credit card companies to only charge 10 or 11% interest. He said this will be a planned event because what will happen is the credit card companies will immediately, because right now they're giving the credit cards to anyone. You can go somewhere, a store or whatever, and they're going to give $500 to $1,000 right now to anybody, right? I guess from what I'm understanding, pretty much anybody's just getting a credit card right now. And there are a lot of people are getting delinquent. They can't even pay it. If we get this legislation that temporarily freezes the rates to 11% or 10% or lower, he said the credit card companies are immediately going to freeze all credit to anybody that has credit below 750. Anybody 750 or below, and they're going to freeze the credit on the cards that are currently there, causing a credit crisis and a liquidity crunch. And he's saying that would spark what would be an economic problem. Almost that you can almost just, like a light switch, turn it on by just passing that thing. What do you think of that?
Well, that is absolutely amazing that they would even think of doing that. I mean, the credit card companies still are going to make money at 10%.
Well, from what the guy said, the model says credit card companies under the current economic climate, it's too much risk. They cannot be doing 10 or 11% because of the failures that are going on. The reason that they can do 29 to 35% is because the people that can pay 29% pay for the guys that are delinquent. At 10 to 11%, at 10 to 11%, you can't cover the delinquencies. So the credit companies will just cut it off.
Right. The way it works, the worse your credit rating is, the higher your interest is.
Correct.
And you have to pay.
Correct.
Something. And that's one thing I will give her credit for, is that senator that claims she's an Indian, Hiawatha, she does go after the credit card company. Yeah, she has high cheekbones, and so that's obviously
Elizabeth Warren.
23. Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, the fake Indian.
I feel like playing some of the old Looney Tunes cartoons with the Indians, dancing around.
Yeah,
side by side with her.
If you really want to go down a rabbit hole, if you remember the Wizard of Oz, what killed the Wicked Witch of the West?
Liquidity, water. Liquidity.
That's right. And she was supposedly represented mortgage bankers and drought.
J.P. Morgan.
Because that was one of the things I love teaching, was the populist interpretation of the Wizard of Oz. Oz being the abbreviation for ounces, the yellow brick road being gold. The slippers were actually silver in the book. The movie was a colored movie, so they were ruby. It's such a great
Emerald City. You always got to do the Emerald City. Where in the book, you had to, on the book, it wasn't green. You had to put on the green glasses so that you could be fooled into everything good is green.
That's right. And the lion was supposedly William Jennings Bryan,
the cowardly lion that couldn't stand up to it.
Yeah,
which he did stand up to it for one election. He stood up to it.
Well, I tell you what he did also do. He was the Secretary of State in World War I, and he resigned after the sinking of the Lusitania because he knew it was a cover up, and he's like, I can't go on with this, And so, I mean, it's interesting. Our history is something that you just have to know, and if you know, and I know you know it, all the presidents and those boring presidents in the 1800s. That a lot of stuff happened back then.
Yep.
Yeah. And that is just great history to know. And I was like I told you, I'm distantly related to Nicholas T. Biddle, and Andrew Jackson's still my favorite president. He destroyed Nicholas T. Biddle. So.
For those who are listening, Nicholas Biddle was the president of the second bank of the United States, the central bank, the second central bank that we had. The first central bank was put into place immediately upon the ratification of the Constitution. It had a 20-year charter from 1791 to 1811. It's funny listening to that Napoleon piece, Glenn, because what Napoleon was doing was crunching the Bank of England so badly that was another, it happened right around 1811, is when things were crashing for the English economy, and that's when they went ahead and invaded America again, because America shoved out their central bank that same year. So things weren't going good for the bank. Napoleon was doing good, and then America was voting out their bank, and then here came the War of 1812. Well, what Glenn is talking about is the second bank of the United States. Nicholas Biddle, one of his ancestors, was the head of that second bank, and they had him and Andrew Jackson had quite the back and forth battle over whether there should be a bank at all, and Andrew Jackson got rid of that bank. America prospered. Patriot Radio News Hour. When you buy one of these $20 Liberties for $4,000, what you're doing is putting $4,000 current value dollars away into savings. And when the funny money, which is going to get a lot funnier and a lot less moneyer, happens as time goes on, that gold is going to be a rock that you're going to be able to depend on for good times and bad times. Good times, I have people, they sell their gold. They pay for their daughter's wedding. They sell their gold. They help their daughter or sons get a down payment for their home that they're trying to buy. Those are good times. Vacations, all kinds of reasons why you sell your gold and cash in. Now, of course, you want to just save it, never sell it. But if you never sell your gold, great. If you hand it off to your kids, that's awesome. But sometimes the kids don't know what to do with it. Yeah, you better give them a little education. You have them listen to the show. And that's what you're doing. And of course, bad times, tough times, we all know that's what gold's good for. You got that sitting there waiting to cover you when things go bump in the night. And Glenn, I don't know how much you know about this. By the way, call the number, 800-951-0592. Put $4,000 away into savings and have it ready when you need it. Glenn, I was watching some stuff on the Vanderbilts, one of those elite families from years past, and there was a short time, a couple of years, where the Vanderbilts actually were wealthier than the Rockefellers. It only happened for a very brief couple of years. And anybody who's learned about the Vanderbilts, Glenn, I don't know how much you know about them, but they lost their entire family fortune in 2 generations. This was accomplished when grandfather Vanderbilt, who built the empire from an average guy to a multimillionaire, he decided to give the entire inheritance to one guy, one son, one inheritor. He didn't give anything, or gave very little to everybody else. And he wanted to keep the family living comfortably. And he knew that if he had one reliable source to hand it to, which was one of his sons, it would continue on. Well, his son did the same. And in fact, his son was the one that briefly, by running the empire, was able to briefly be more wealthier than the Rockefellers during his running of the business. And he just couldn't bear to give it to just one heir. He did really good, and then he just couldn't do it. He had to give it to 120 heirs. So Glenn, guess what happened? So these 120 heirs, these brothers and sisters and nephews and nieces and sons and daughters, they all started building these big, huge palaces in New York and all over the country. These big, huge castles, and flaunting the money, and they were in all the social circles, and everyone loved the Vanderbilts. But by the next generation, none of them were a millionaire. There was no millionaires in the bunch. It was all gone. All the big houses had to be bulldozed. Yeah. They all had to be bulldozed because they couldn't afford to maintain these palaces they bought. That's how quick it goes away, clinically.
Yeah. Yeah, his nickname was the Commodore. He was into ships and boats, and he sold all that and went into railroads and
trains.
He made his fortune.
Yep.
Yeah, trains. And remember Andrew Carnegie? He said, "Do not give your money to your family; they will squander it." That's why he put a lot of his money supposedly into like Carnegie Hall and different types of projects, because he knew his family would squander the money. So it's quite interesting. Now you're talking about selling gold and silver when you need to. So I bought my 2018 Toyota Tacoma brand new with silver. I paid for my daughter's wedding with silver, and I just needed a roof about a month ago, and I paid for it with silver. And this is silver that I had bought, 20, 25 years ago, and selling it now. Well, actually selling back in 2018, I still made a profit on it. My daughter got married 4 years ago. I made a huge profit on that. But when I had to go sell the silver for this roof a month ago, I tripled my money. Easily tripled my money on the silver. So it is definitely a store of wealth. Inflation's not going to go down, okay? So it behooves you to get in when you can. If you got in a long time ago, you're sitting pretty, but even now, still get in because it's going to appreciate in value. We always talk about that story. If you had a $20 bill and a $20 gold piece and you buried them in 2013 and you dug them up today, which one's the more valuable? Because on face value, they're the same.
Yep. But
your $20 bill is basically worthless, and your $20 gold piece is worth $4,000 now. So that's not hard. It should not be a hard sell to sell gold and silver right now as a store of wealth. That's an easy thing to do, an easy thing to see. The debt's not going down. With this new Fed chair, he likes 4 to 6% interest every year baked in the cake. That's his goal, and so
he wants to have those the interest rates at 4 to 6 because he says he's going to try to stop the inflation, right?
Well, he says that. He wants to make the money easy. Well, and Trump loves this too. An easy money policy because he's going to make it easier for the economy to go. But he's basically going to allow the 4 to 6% interest. The inflation basically every year. He doesn't think inflation's a big deal, but it is a big deal when you think about the buying power of everything. So, Jason, I saw this interesting video today, and it's funny and sad at the same time. It was the opening of a port here somewhere in the United States, and there was this big crane in the background, the one that loads and unloads the containers, and there was this American flag on the crane. Well, a gust of wind hit, and the flag, I guess it was a banner, the flag got knocked out of the way, and you see the logo of the Chinese company that made this huge container crane. And this guy's rushing up there to get the flag back over top of this logo because they didn't want people to realize these cranes were made in China because here's this big, American ports, we're back in business, Like, that happened right here in Maryland. It's happened twice. We, at the Port of Baltimore, had a big ship brought in with 6 or 7 of these huge container cranes on it, and they had to flood the ship a little bit to get it lower in the water so it could get under our Bay Bridge and then to the Port of Baltimore. And they had to sail right by a shuttered Bethlehem steel plant that could have made those cranes right there. And, and then they ordered more, and they brought them in like 5 or 6 years ago. And now there's all this spyware that is supposedly associated with these container cranes sitting in our ports from China. And it's just a sad, pathetic thing that we can't make stuff here in the United States anymore. We can't make enough shipping because the Navy now wants to get Korean shipyards to make Navy ships. And apparently there's a law against that, and it would have to be a congressional override of that to make Navy ships in South Korean shipyards because we don't have the space or we don't have the labor to do it anymore, the skilled labor. That's sad.
I'm going to ask Glenn a question or two as he was talking about the Chinese crane company. Well, listen to the Patriot Radio News Hour. I got myself here, Jason. Joe's on a vacation, and Glenn Biddle's with me. We'll be right back. 800-951-0592. We have $20 liberties for $4,000. Joe is on vacation. That is just a little bit above melt on these $20 gold pieces. One of these days, I would say later this year or maybe next year, where the premiums on this gold and the silver is going to come back. And then I'm going to say, I remember in August when Joe was on vacation and before, all throughout most of 2026 early on, the middle of 2026, we had these low premiums, barely above melt, and you didn't buy it. And gold will probably be at about $4,500, $5,000, $5,500. The premiums will be, a lot more. You'll be paying at 5,000 gold. You'll be paying $5,700 or $5,400, hundreds of dollars. above melt, and I'll be like, well, I tried. We tried to get you guys to look at it, but that's okay. For you guys that are looking at it, 800-951-0592. Glenn, you were talking about the Chinese, the flag went down. They saw the Chinese corporate name or whatever on the ship or whatever it was. Is there really such a thing as a Chinese corporation in this world? Does that actually exist? Because when you look at the stock market, and it's the same in China and other markets, they have their own companies. When you start to look at who actually owns the voter, the majority voter shares of those companies, you always have this handful of companies like BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. Vanguard's the big one. And then Vanguard's a majority owner of that crane company from China. Is it really a Chinese making it? I mean, Chinese people are making it. But is it really the Chinese making it if an American-based company owns the voting shares of that company? If it's an American company really owns that Chinese company, is it really are the Chinese really making it, Glenn?
Well, the Chinese are making it because it's their steel, their workers. Is it
their steel? Is it their workers? If their workers are working for an American-based company in China, is it really their workers?
It all depends on how you look at it. I mean, wouldn't it be better to make those cranes here in the United States? But see, we've priced ourselves out of this because of labor and unions and things like that, and environmental laws and OSHA and everything else. It's just so much easier.
Let me give you a different perspective then. How about this? Because you say it depends how you look at it. Let me give you a perspective then. So Glenn, something happens and suddenly you're blessed with suddenly the biddle fortune that was hidden from you for so long is brandished itself. It's like, oh, you are now the last living dependable heir of Nicholas Biddle's secret corporate holdings. And now there's this massive Chinese company that is owned by the Biddle family. And you now own this, Glenn. And it is suggested to you by the people running the company. Well, you're the owner. It's now an American-based company because Biddle Corp owns it. We just suggest for you to make your millions of dollars every year, Glenn. Just make sure we tell everybody it's the Wang Chang Company, Wang Chang Chang Company. Just make sure everyone knows it's the Wang Chang Chang Company, and you'll make millions and millions of dollars. Would you accept that?
Yeah, I probably would because I like making money. I'm a corporatist.
Is it a Chinese company, though? So the last question.
No,
is it a Chinese company? No, because you own it and you're American.
No, but here's the thing. Where would I have my manufacturing done? If I'm having it done over there, it doesn't benefit Americans.
Well, your Wang Chang Chang advisors are saying, well, if you move the manufacturing from our Chinese location over to an American location, we will no longer be profitable. You will probably have to hemorrhage $1 million instead of receiving multiple millions. What do you do?
I'm keeping it in China. I hate to say that, but that's where I'm going to keep it.
It is so it's an American company in China.
It's a business decision that is happening in the boardroom. Remember how when we did when I think Eric used to say we gave it all away. We gave it all away. We did give it all away. We gave our manufacturing.
Well, we didn't give it to China and Japan. We gave
cheaper.
It to the bankers. Do you think the Chinese central bank is a bunch of Chinese guys making decisions on fiscal policy? Or do you think it's the actual owners of the Chinese central bank, which is probably the Rothschilds, that have a majority stake?
Well, I can tell you one thing about Chinese entrepreneurship. If you screw up, you don't get a fine. You get disappeared or get killed or whatever. That guy, Alibaba guy, remember, he disappeared for a while. And they got to him, and yeah, he's back on board with communism, I guess, again. But bad things happen to you if you screw up over there in China as an entrepreneur. So there is a little bit of accountability there.
I never heard that China ever they never arrested or jailed a Rockefeller. I've not heard that story.
No, because you're over here, you're kind of untouchable.
No, they own they own the Chinese central bank, so they can't do anything to the Rothschilds.
Remember HSBC, the Hong Kong's HSBC? They laundered drug money in the United States, and nothing basically happened to them. Wells Fargo did the same thing. They opened all these fraudulent accounts. Nothing happens to them. If they were operating in China and something like that happened, I think you'd see the head of Wells Fargo and HSBC get whacked probably, or they would strip them of their power. I will say this: I am totally not in favor of the protectionism that we do on vehicles in this country, because those BYD cars are actually very nice to build your dream Chinese car. My nephew was just driving one in Spain. He was over there for a wedding, and he had this BYD car. He said he loved it. I am a big fan of Toyota trucks, and if we could get the real export version of the Toyota Land Cruiser pickups and Land Cruiser SUVs, they would dominate the U.S. market. The F-150 would cease to be the number one sales in America, because they are just solid trucks, not these yuppie things you see people riding around in that never go off-road.
Hang on, guys. We got one more segment here. 800-951-0592. We're selling $20 Liberties for $4,000. Get it before it's $5,000. Get it before it's $6,000. And on and on and on, guys. We'll be right back. All right. Well, one of the things that I play on the radio station, but I don't do it regularly before the show because it's a little long piece. And it's not a guy I really like that much, but it's Glenn Beck. And Glenn Beck did this piece. It was a Freedom of Information Act that came out in 2022. And it was about the bank bailouts. $5.5 trillion. People were angry. People, you had people going to, sit in on Wall Street, and people were protesting, getting mad. And the news was spinning it, because we get the worst side of it. And come to find out, in 2012, this group of reporters wanted to find out, the actual what happened, and the Fed said, well, the Fed isn't the government, so the Freedom of Information Act, it was kind of a, we work with the government, but we're not the government, and so they said, well, we'll give you that information in 10 years, what we actually did to bail everything out. And 10 years went by, and Glenn Beck, Glenn Beck has some really brilliant stuff, and then he doesn't stick to it. He goes off and starts talking about how great Donald Trump is or something, and he just blows it, right? But he did this piece, but it's about 8-minute piece, and Glenn, $29 trillion. That's what the Fed and the United States government did, and they bailed out countries, they bailed out banks. You talk about everything is fake, right? Everything is not real. Everything is a lie, right, Glenn?
Yeah, they bailed out my local bank here in town. I was actually, I still am a customer of the bank, and they would not admit that they received any of the money from whatever that plan was back then, and because they were freaked out that people would get scared and just bail out, just leave the bank, like a modern bank run. So they kept denying that they got any money from the Fed bailout, and they did. It was later revealed that they did get money. And that $30 trillion, that's once again, that's off the books. Isn't it?
Yeah, that didn't go in. It did not go. It basically it was patchwork for the country of Germany, or the country of Japan, or or J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, or Wells Fargo. They all got it, all of them. It was patchwork, and since it didn't go directly into the economy, we did not hit the inflation, because remember, gold and silver just kept going. Gold and silver went up in 2009. Gold and silver went up in 2010. Gold and silver hit its peak in 2011, and then it just crashed. And they spent, they bailed out $29 trillion worth of countries and institutions, and it didn't go directly into circulation, Glenn. And so we didn't get the dramatic inflation like we had after COVID, which the money that actually went directly into the markets to save the markets. So, it's these are the kinds of things you got to keep your eyes on and try to learn about, right, Glenn, to understand why things are the way they are.
Yeah, the general rule of thumb is they would say when the United States gets a cold, the rest of the world gets pneumonia, and that's why we probably sent all that money out.
Yeah, I think America had pneumonia back in 2008.
We actually had the flu, but there were no recorded cases of it in 2020.